and welcome to another demo video. And today I am making eggnog or veg-nog or egg-free, dairy-free nog, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're demoing, so let's go. So I'm demoing two different versions today, and one is a more adult version with a little bit of turmeric and whiskey and some shaved walnuts, and the other one is more kid-friendly, just a teaspoon of whiskey just for flavor, with whipped cream and shaved chocolate. So we're gonna do the adult version first. We're gonna do both of them together. We're gonna let them cool, and then I'll show you how to dress them afterwards. Okay, so let's get started. Let me just put my hair back. All right, so first I'm gonna turn on my induction blender or induction burner, and I'm gonna start with 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. 1, 2, 3 tablespoons. And I'll write this recipe down later. It's just easier to just talk through it and walk through it and do it as I go. So I get the 3 tablespoons in there, and I get it to start bubbling like sugar would when you're making caramel, same thing. And once that gets going, I'm gonna add my whiskey next. Now whiskey goes in both recipes, but in this one, I'm gonna add whiskey again at the end because it's an adult version and I want the alcohol in there. But in the next one, I'll add the whiskey just at the beginning to burn it out and get that nice barrel aged flavor, whatever you want to call that, okay? So my maple syrup is bubbling and boiling just like sugar would at this point. And now I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of whiskey. Any whiskey of your choosing. This is just the one I like. Actually, I was listening to Chris Stapleton this morning, and Tennessee whiskey was on my mind, so that's why we're going with that. So I take my little light and I flambe. I don't know if you can see the fire going on that, but it's there. And then I let that burn off for a little bit, and I get my other things ready. So in here is just 3 tablespoons of maple syrup and 1 tablespoon of whiskey. And then, just to get rid of the excitement, I add 1 cup of milk. Actually, I'm going to do 1.5 cups for both recipes. And you can double this all you want and add as much of whatever you want and go from there. So 1.5 cups of dairy-free milk. I like using the pea milk, the Ripple, just because when you're baking and cooking, it's just a thicker, nicer milk to use, so I like using that. So that was some coconut condensed-free coconut milk, or sweetened condensed coconut milk. And this is another tablespoon of coconut cream, just to get that thickness that you usually find with eggnog anyways. So I just want to turn down my flame now that my whiskey is burned out. I want to turn down that flame, and I want to whisk that a little bit, and I want to add some spices. The first thing I'm going to add is this spice blend that I made just before I came live, and this is just to save me a few steps. This has cinnamon, allspice, cloves, and cardamom. So that's all that's in here: cinnamon, allspice, cloves, and cardamom. And I mix them together, and I'll do about a dash or like a 1/2 teaspoon in here, because nutmeg has that rich, Christmassy clove taste, so I want to add that in there. I'm going to take a stick of cinnamon. I'm going to throw that in. I'm going to take a fresh nutmeg, and I want to just microplane this fresh in there. I don't want the ground nutmeg, just because just because this one's just a little bit better, just fresher like this, especially for eggnog. I just want this to come to a boil as I'm adding everything in there. So I got my spices. And then I can't forget the vanilla, and I wanted to use nice vanilla. Let's move this to the left so you can see what I'm doing. So I had to pay for the expensive vanilla bean. You can use the vanilla extract, but when I'm making something with vanilla, and you're gonna be able to see the ingredient, you're going to be able to see the spices. I like to use the vanilla bean just because you can see the black speckles floating around in the drink, and I like that. So I'm going to take my vanilla like that. I think I'm going to use maybe just 3/4 of this. And then I'm going to cut off the unused portion. I'm going to take the vanilla skin and I'm going to throw it right in the milk. And then we're going to mix. The last thing I think I need for this before we let it cool, I'm going to add some turmeric. Because like I said, this is the adult version with some turmeric, some whiskey, some walnuts. So I have some walnut pieces in my little glass bowl, and I'm just gonna microplane some in there just to give it a nice nuttier flavor, building flavors, layers of flavor. I'm gonna add some at the end for garnish too. And then I want my turmeric, which is about, I'd say half a teaspoon. Put some back. And that's just for color. I mean, it does enhance the flavor a little, kind of like golden milk, but really I just want it in here for color to get that kind of tinted yellow eggnog feel, or look, I should say. And then I can always say it's healthy because it's got turmeric in there. So even though it's got whiskey, it's all right. So this I want to let simmer. So I got my whiskey in here, my maple syrup, my creams, and my milk, my spices, my vanilla. And I'm gonna let that come to a slow simmer. And then we're gonna cool it and garnish it. Now let's taste. Okay. Okay. I'm satisfied, but I just always gotta add just a little bit more spices. All right, let this boil. Yay, we're almost there. Yeah, she's boiling, and that's it. So we're gonna turn her off. And with this one, let's see if I need to strain it. Sometimes I like to strain it if it's got little thick floaties in there. But this one actually looks really good, so I don't have to strain it. So I'm just gonna skip that step, pour it in a container. Add some more whiskey. All in all, I'm gonna add about 3 tablespoons, which is about an ounce. That first one doesn't count because it's already cooked off, but I do add like 1.5 tablespoons in this one. And then later when I make a drink, if you wanna add more, that's up to you. So that's it for this one. I'm gonna put it in the fridge and let it cool. And you'll see how much the flavor changes as soon as this is cool. So we're gonna do this, put this to cool, and then we're gonna jump right into the next one. Okay, so that's it for that. And we're gonna move on to the next one. And I'm just gonna use a different pot just to save some time. So same procedure again, right? Turn it on. Maple syrup, 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. This is gonna be so good, you guys. I tried this already. It's phenomenal. All right, so 3 tablespoons. Let that kind of bubble up like sugar would. This one's just a little bit different approach. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of just egg in this bowl, right? So first, let me add the whiskey since my maple syrup is already bubbling. So my tablespoon of whiskey is going in now. And a flambe, or not. There we go. Let that burn out. Can you guys even see that flame? Doesn't look like it, but that's all right. It's flaming. And then I need about 2 tablespoons of my just egg. And this way I'm doing it, it's like more like a custard, like a crème anglaise, or like a crème pâtissière, pastry cream, or crème anglaise. So I'm gonna add my eggs here, my brown sugar. Let's go 1 tablespoon. Yeah. Look, I'm using my fancy tablespoons. Save them for the videos. All right, so remember we added our milk, about 1.5 cups. That smells so nice. Whiskey and sugar, or whiskey and in caramel, period, smells nice. Caramel, caramel, whatever. All right, so condensed coconut cream, and if you don't have it, just double your regular coconut milk and add a little bit more sugar. That's all it is. And then I'm using the fat tops of my coconut milk just to get that creamy base again, like I said before. And that's good. Yeah, so now I want to add my cinnamon stick. We can turn this down. My pre-mixed spices, which I mentioned in the video earlier in the video. No turmeric this time. I am gonna add my vanilla, right? Just about. I don't need that much for just 1 serving. But if you're gonna do it for more than 1 or 2 people, I would use the whole half of the vanilla bean. So that was I cleaned out the pots and I added the skin in there. Let that go. And this is my milk, or excuse me, this is my egg, my just egg, my brown sugar, a tablespoon, and just a pinch of salt. And if you've ever made a crème anglaise or pastry cream, then you know where this is going, but usually you add your eggs and your sugar here, and then you're gonna temper with your cream from this pot right here. I'm just gonna make a stance for myself to be able to do this by myself. If you have a person with you, or if you're using a KitchenAid, it's easier to just pour and whisk at the same time. But for someone like me, let's do this again. For someone like me who's usually in the kitchen by myself, you know, you find ways to be able to work alone. So there I have my little bowl well. Now I can just one hand that. Oh, I do want to add just a little bit of nuts in here too, just like I did before, just to give it a nice little nutty taste, a little deeper flavor. Yes, my nutmeg. Turn this down just a little. Actually, it's hot enough that I can turn it off. It doesn't have to boil, it just needs to simmer just a little bit. The smells in here, it literally smells like Christmas in here. So that's why I keep saying, All right, so this is whisk. If you're doing this with real eggs, or if we're doing with the just egg, this is just whisked sugar and the just egg product. And then I'm going to what's called temper my hot milk into my cold eggs. And you just do that by adding a little bit of the hot ingredient into the cold ingredient while whisking air into it. So here goes nothing. So when I do it this way, the bowl doesn't move, and it allows me to still aerate my eggs. I know they're not eggs, but still aerate my eggs and add my cream at the same time. The reason you do this, especially when you're working with eggs, is because you don't want it to break. But again, this is plant-based. I'm just trying to explain the method to my madness in the second version of my eggnog. All right, so when you have enough left in your pot, you can just slowly add that in there. And then after, you're gonna return this to the stove just to let it thicken a little bit and reduce a little. It will reduce a little bit, but it's not gonna thicken that much. It's gonna be a little bit thicker than the first one. Okay, so that was easy, right? Essentially, that's it. That's all we have to do, except garnish. So once this comes to a boil or a simmer, I'm gonna put it in another container. I'm gonna let it cool, and then I'm gonna jump, like some TV magic, I'm gonna jump right into the cool eggnog and the decorating or garnishing. All right. All right. Okay. I do want to taste this, Linda. No, it's good. Just a little bit more nutmeg. Okay, so turn this one off. And again, I don't need to strain this. I'm having pretty good luck. Sometimes I'll have a lump or two in here and I have to strain it. If you do, strain it. If you don't, good for you. So then I'm just gonna pour this in here to cool it. You always wanna cool in a glass or a metal container. I'm just adding this in because I already got some cooled in the fridge. So now we're just gonna garnish our creations, right? All right, so let's start with the adult version. All right, I'm gonna serve it in a martini glass, and that's my turmeric, whiskey, and walnut eggnog. So first, I took that same pre-mix of spices and I put it on a plate. I have some maple syrup and a brush in a bowl. And I just wanna get it around my martini glass, which I already chilled in the fridge just to, this is something you do if you're gonna have people over, you know, just to kind of give that extra, go that extra mile, make them feel special. And that's what usually happens during the holidays anyways, so. This is for your extra special guests. Okay, there we go. That's gonna be good. So, okay. So I just want this to be a little frothy, and I just want to see if this is gonna work, just to add a little bit air to it. Just want to blend it just 2 seconds before I put it in my bowl. Oh no, what's going on? Yes. All right. So we're going to pour a little bit more whiskey, all right? Just a tad. Just a tad. To make it a real drink, you know? And again, you can opt out of any part of the whiskey and just try it as is. And this is gonna be our turmeric. Just add some of that airy, nice top in there. Ooh, clean up our section here. Take a little bit of this is walnuts. Just a little bit of walnuts shaved right on top. You don't need anything else for this. All your spices are around the center. And then you can just stop right there. And that's our adult version of our eggnog. The next one, our kid version, we can skip the spices. because kids don't really care for the spices or anything like that. So we're just gonna pour this in our mason jar. Ooh. See what happened just then? I saw the little skin of my eggnog. Kind of thing that happens when you warm milk and you let it sit, it gets that skin on top. Just don't like to drink that part. So I put my eggnog in here. Yum. Sorry, I gotta clean my mess. All right, my eggnog in there. I get my whipped cream. This is just almond whipped cream. I could have made it with some coconut milk, but I didn't have the time, or I didn't want to have the time. So I take my whipped cream like that. I take a pinch of the spices still, and I put it all around like that. Right? Actually, I'm kind of thinking maybe a little bit more whipped cream, just because it's Christmas. Put a little bit more spices right there. Some walnuts again. And last but not least, some shaved chocolate. This is 100% cacao. You can get any chocolate you want to have in there. You can even add this to your adult martini or eggnog, vegnog, veg-teeny. And then go back here. And really, that's it. That's your 2 eggnog, guys. Hopefully the video wasn't too long. Hopefully you cared to try either one of those. I recommend the adult version. It's really nice. It has that strong whiskey flavor. Or you can try the, I say it's a kid-friendly version, but who doesn't like whipped cream and shaved chocolate? So I'm going to post these recipes if you'd like to try them on my website and later again on Instagram. So good luck, guys. I'm just going to drink this one. Oh my God. It's so good. Okay, ciao.